Every man desires to be strong, powerful, and dominant in some aspect of his life, whether it be his work, wealth, or love life. We all crave the power and ambition that high-value men possess. Many of us don't have enough of it because we partake in activities that keep us from becoming the men we are meant to be. In fact, there's a special word for these weak men as well. We call them NPC, which stands for non-player character. If you have ever played video games, you would know that non-player characters are controlled by the simulation. They can't think for themselves, unlike the live players. Remember, we exist in a reality that's being controlled and manipulated at each turn. And some humans take on the role of NPCs, spouting opinions that they are programmed to spout and repeating in a cult-like manner. You can tell that they are brainwashed by just taking a look at their daily habits. And that's exactly what we will be breaking down today. The 5 worst daily habits that turn you into a weak man. Number 1. Consumerism. In this modern era, the average person has more spare time and extra income than their forefathers. Sometimes, spending money on all kinds of consumer products is a result of having too much spare time, and even more so because of a lack of purpose. Look at it this way. Let's say your mom gives you $5 to go to the grocery store and grab a bottle of milk that costs $5 as well. Are you likely to grab the bottle of milk and come back home, or spend that $5 on something else? Most likely you will grab the bottle of milk and come straight home. Why? Because you had a direct purpose in mind and couldn't spare to spend money on anything else because the bottle was $5 and that's all you had. In the same way, when you have no purpose, no masculine drive, you will spend your money on everything except helping the world and yourself. You may have seen men that are from Africa or Asia who spend their money helping build schools, education, and clean drinking water systems back home, to give people access to things they didn't have back home. That's their purpose, to help the community. Do you think they would be using a large sum of their money on consuming? Most definitely not, because they know that their money could be better spent on helping the community. It might sound cliche, but I will say it regardless. Listen closely. Serve God, then yourself, and then your community. Period. Once you get these points pinned to the bullseye, you will notice that you naturally avoid mindless consumerism. Number 2. Not taking care of your aesthetics. Someone said a very beautiful quote. It goes like this: we now live in a world where it's not about what you are saying, but who is saying it. Let's say there are 2 men. The first man, let's call him Tyrone, is well built, smells good, perfect skin, has social charisma, and looks the part. The second man, however, let's call him Joe, is socially awkward, is full of pimples, smells like hamburgers, has a receding hairline, and has completely let himself go. Now, let me ask you a question. If both of these men went up to Cynthia and asked her out, who is most likely to get her number? You already know the answer. In fact, Joe might get hit with a sexual abuse charge simply because he didn't look the part. Joe and Tyrone might have said the exact same thing to Cynthia about how beautiful she looks, yet Tyrone ends up getting her number, while Joe ends up in jail. Because, once again, going back to the original point, we now live in a world where it's not about what you are saying, but who is saying it. Unlike what society will tell you, the world now has become more judgmental than ever, and the way you look, the way you present yourself, is a big dictating factor on how you will be treated. Number 3. Sedentary lifestyle. The American and Western culture is sedentary. This statement, however, is taking a drastic change as well. It's not only the Western culture, but every other part of the world is being affected by it too, thanks to social media that connects us all. Today, men spend much of their time sitting in front of a TV screen, constantly watching movies and wasting time doing irrelevant stuff. This constant lifestyle of being inactive can make a man weak and a big softy. This is not to say that sitting down and watching a movie is wrong. However, there should be a limit to the time given. There are men who hate their job. They complain each day, yet when they come home, instead of working on their side hustle or working on their appearance, they go and watch a movie. But here's the worst part. When you ask them, why don't you level up? They will tell you, oh, I don't have time, or oh, life is already too busy. The simple truth is that their life, which they always complain about, is actually what they are in love with. If they truly hated their job, then they would take action. I have said this before, and will say it again. Instant gratification will take away your natural masculine desire to work. Why? Simple. Think of instant gratification like a man's kryptonite. Just like kryptonite makes Superman weak, in the same way, you lose the desire to work. You may be the top 1% of men, but after spending a week or two in a sedentary lifestyle that's full of instant gratification, you will see yourself fall to the bottom of the 99% in no time. Number 4. Having high body fat. High body fat goes hand in hand with leading a sedentary lifestyle. You may not have the financial freedom you desire just yet, or the social charisma, but one of the easiest things you can begin on right away is cutting down your body fat. There are two main things you will need. The first is correcting the foods you are eating, and secondly, workout. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make over and over again is that they just stop eating to supposedly cut down their fat. At that point, you wouldn't even call it a diet, it's just a fast. If you want to cut down your body fat and maintain it, instead of doing extreme dieting, start by reducing high-fat foods and replace it with 4 meals throughout the day that have a nice balance of your micronutrients. One of the worst parts of having a high body fat is the hormonal imbalances it creates in you. It's been scientifically proven as well that high fat forces the body to produce more estrogens, which, as you would know, is a female hormone. And here's the worst part about it. Once you let your fat increase, it becomes a never-ending cycle, because estrogen allows more fat to gather under the skin, and more fat under the skin will further increase your estrogen levels. Hence, it becomes a vicious cycle that repeats itself over and over again. And finally, number 5, social media. We discussed above how we are surrounded by an army of NPC men who just say the opinion they have been fed without ever asking themselves whether or not what they are saying is true or virtuous. And social media is hands down the biggest culprit to blame for this. Listen to this crazy stat. According to the latest data, the average amount of time spent on social media worldwide is set to hit 147 minutes, or 2 hours and 27 minutes, a day in 2022. Not only is this a 2-minute increase on 2021 numbers, but it is also the highest ever recorded. Just think about that. If you were to calculate this all together, you are basically spending an entire month of the year just scrolling your life away. Remember, brothers, unlike the past, men are not wasting their life away, but rather scrolling it away. Make a commitment that you will shut off your phone while you are working. Practice the art of deep work. Spend no more than 30 minutes on recreational social media use. And above all, allow yourself to get bored. This is an art that has been forgotten altogether. There's a saying that the greatest ideas usually come to mind when you are bored, and rightly so. The time spent away from social media is also the golden time when you can correctly analyze all the behaviors and thought patterns you have been fed. Ask yourself, when was the last time you saw something on social media that was valuable to your personal growth as a man? Think about how your life would be if you used that time for something that will benefit you in the long run. Besides the amount of time that social media will waste, it is also directly linked to mental illness. It's been well documented that people experience higher levels of worry, sadness, and depression after spending much time on social media. So remember, brothers, we may all fall weak at times, but that's no excuse to surrender. Don't surrender to the weak habits we have discussed today.